Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the architecture of dread. We're going to look at the opening chapters of Stephen King's Haven Glugor, or Pet Sematary, and break down exactly how a totally ordinary, mundane family moved to the country gets transformed into an inescapable, suffocating masterclass in suspense. So let's just jump right in and see how the stage is set for one of the most chilling narratives ever put to paper.
Right off the bat, the cover of this Turkish edition sets the exact tone for the story. The chilling, almost cinematic depiction of the cat with those piercing, bloodshot eyes perfectly establishes the dark, eerie vibe of the world we're about to enter. It's essentially a visual promise to the reader, right? Like, whatever peace you think you're going to find in this story, well, it's a total illusion.
And that illusion shatters immediately with this ominous opening epigraph from the Gospel of John. Lazarus is dead. I mean, wow. Before we even meet our main characters, the text just hits us with this. It instantly hooks you by introducing the inescapable reality of mortality and, frankly, the terrifying concept of return. The specter of death is literally hovering over the narrative before you even turn the first page.
Section 1. A new home in Ludlow.
So, when the Creed family, Louis, Rachel, their 2 kids, and their cat Church, moves from Chicago to rural Maine, their arrival is basically a baptism by fire. It's a super stressful first day. They pull up in the late afternoon, tired and irritable. Within minutes, literally minutes, Eileen falls from a tire swing and scrapes her knee. Moments after that, baby Gage gets stung by a bee and is just screaming in agony. This deceptive peace, this whole promise of a fresh start, is already starting to crack. But, this ordinary chaos actually culminates in something monumental. The fateful introduction of their 83-year-old neighbor, Judd Crandall, who effortlessly steps in to pull the stinger from the baby's neck.
And right in the middle of all this crying and bleeding and pure exhaustion, something profoundly ironic happens. Baby Gage, sitting there quietly after the whole ordeal, utters his first clear word. He looks at the new house and says, "Yuva, home." The whole family just erupts in laughter and relief. They truly believe they've found their safe haven, their sanctuary away from the dangers of the world. But as we're going to see, they've actually planted their flag right on the very edge of a nightmare.
Which brings us to Section 2, the deadly highway.
Because literally just outside their front door lies a massive, immediate threat. Route 15 isn't just some sleepy country road. It's a roaring artery for these massive Orinoco chemical trucks and speeding traffic that just absolutely shadow the silence day and night. And Judd Crandall, he doesn't sugarcoat this reality one bit. As they're sitting out on the porch, he recounts this grim list of casualties claimed by the speeding highway. We're talking stray dogs and cats, the Ryder family's beloved pet raccoon, little Timmy Dessler's dog Biffer. It's this relentless machine that just crushes innocence. And as Judd lists these victims, you can feel this creeping, inescapable dread starting to build around the fate of the Creed family's own free Roman cat, Church.
So, Judd offers Louis some highly practical but honestly incredibly ominous advice regarding the cat. He says, a neutered cat doesn't wander much. It's a pretty simple warning, right? Alter the cat's nature to save him from the road, or his luck will eventually run out. This really forces Louis to consider the direct connection between taking action, nature, and avoiding a violent destiny.
Section 3. The Pet Sematary.
Now, the highway isn't the only landmark in Ludlow. Judd ends up taking the family on a hike into the woods, leaving that modern world of roaring trucks behind for something deeply symbolic and, honestly, ancient. They follow a path up a hill that is surprisingly well kept by generations of local kids. They pass through a crude wooden archway and enter a clearing arranged in concentric circles. On the outer edges, they find newer, clearly marked graves made from crates and tin. But as they move toward the center, the graves become older, the writing starts to fade, until they finally reach these ancient, unmarked stones totally consumed by the earth. It's a highly structured, almost ritualistic layout. And man, the details here are absolutely heartbreaking. These are very specific memorials built by the hands of grieving children across decades. There are markers for Smucky the cat, Biffer, who, remember, we know was hit by a truck, Jen Patton, and even a soft marble stone for Hannah, a dog from way back in 1929. It really illustrates just how deep the history of sudden death and the mourning of that death runs in the seemingly quiet little town of Ludlow.
But here's the thing, the cemetery isn't the end of the line. At the very edge of this clearing sits a massive, genuinely dangerous pile of weather-bleached trees known as the deadfall. Louis even notes it looks like the skeletal remains of some giant monster.
When Eileen actually tries to climb it, Judd sharply warns her down. This sinister bone-like barrier physically separates the children's cemetery from the deep, untamed, and deeply mysterious Micmac Indian woods right beyond it. It represents a physical and psychological threshold that absolutely should not be crossed.
Moving on to Section 4, Confronting Mortality.
This environment, as you might guess, has a profound psychological impact, completely shattering 5-year-old Eileen's innocence. The crucial boiling point is reached when she has a full-on meltdown in her father's study. She screams, "I don't want Church to die like those animals. He's my cat. He's not God's cat." This really highlights her terrifying sudden realization that death is arbitrary. Think about it. If all those pets can die and be buried in the dirt, then Church can die. And if Church can die, then her parents can die, her baby brother can die, she can die. It's a heavy, profound existential crisis for a 5-year-old. Now, it's fascinating to look at how the locals actually view this place. We have to impartially look at the perspective of Judd and his wife, Norma, here. To them, the graveyard isn't something evil at all. It's a necessary historical coping mechanism. It's the place where the children of Ludlow have, for generations upon generations, first encountered, ritualized, and processed the really hard reality of death. They grieve, they bury their pets, and as Judd says, they learn to live with it.
Section 5. The parents' deep conflict. Eileen's parents, however, definitely do not share this calm acceptance, which sparks a massive argument in their kitchen. Their daughter's sudden raw fear of mortality basically pulls back the curtain on the parents' own unresolved issues. Lewis Creed, who is a doctor, remember, views death entirely clinically, simply as a natural end to the biological clockwork. To him, it's a reality that kids should be introduced to honestly. Rachel Creed, on the flip side, views it highly emotionally, as a horrific, ugly tragedy that should be completely hidden and shielded from children at all costs. King uses this exact tension to show us the underlying cracks in their marriage.
But why are their reactions so incredibly extreme? Well, it's because the shadows of their pasts are actively bleeding into their present. Rachel is deeply, permanently scarred by watching her sister Zelda suffer an agonizing, truly terrifying death from spinal meningitis when they were just kids. Lewis, meanwhile, is haunted by the sudden, violent death of his young cousin Ruthie in a car crash and the clumsy lies that adults told him about it at the time. So, they aren't just arguing about a cat here. They are fighting their own historical ghosts. All of this dread, history, and trauma finally forces Lewis into action. Late at night, totally unable to sleep, Lewis writes down the number for the local veterinarian, hoping to keep the cat away from that deadly highway. But, based on everything we've just uncovered about the relentless nature of Ludlow, we are left with a pretty chilling thought. If Louis alters his cat to save him from the road, can destiny truly be avoided? Or, by trying to outsmart death, is he simply taking the very first step on a much, much darker path? Think about that. And thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.